friends. Welcome to episode 362 of School Librarians United. I am your host, Amy Herman. This podcast is dedicated to the issues and challenges school librarians face every day. As a school librarian in my 19th year, I knew I wanted a podcast which addressed the nuts and bolts of running a successful library program. I don't claim to have the answers, but I hope that this is a platform to share resources and exchange ideas. Now is a perfect time to mention that all the ideas and opinions expressed in this podcast by myself, my interview guests, and listeners who reach out to the podcast are our own and do not reflect those of our school districts. When incorporating research, I always make sure to cite my sources. So whether you are a novice or a veteran school librarian, this podcast has something for you. I welcome you and all listeners to reach out with your feedback and episode suggestions. You can reach me on Facebook, on Threads, and Instagram. You can find me at School Librarians United and on Blue Sky at SLU Podcast, or the email address schoollibrariansunited@gmail.com. If you include your mailing address, I'll be sure to send you a podcast sticker. This past January, I received a wonderful invitation to attend Maine's annual School Librarian Conference. But I didn't have any personal days remaining to use for the necessary travel. Now, if you've ever seen me at a school librarian conference, you'll know that I'm almost always chatting and recording my conversations with the school librarians I meet. I love these opportunities to get to know the school librarians from across the country, and there is no reason I couldn't do the same with Maine during their conference, but I'd need the assistance of some folks on site with the help of spreading the word and logistics. This is when I met Carrie Latari, MASL's secretary, and was reunited with Heather Perkinson, who, until this week, was the only Maine school librarian I've ever had the pleasure of collaborating on an episode. And in this case, it was episode 205, Supporting Rural School Librarians, recorded in December of 2022. And now for today's episode. Maine school librarians sharing strategies and solutions, and my conversation with 15 school librarians attending their annual conference this past weekend.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nancy Watson, and I am the librarian at Bangor High School up in Bangor, Maine. For those of you who don't know where Bangor, Maine is, we are way up there, more than halfway up the state. We have a high school of about 1,100, grades 9 to 12, and our library is awesome. And with me today is my extraordinary library assistant.
My name is Brandy Gould, and I'm an ed tech librarian at the high school, at Bangor High School, and it is way up there in Maine. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. What is it you'd like to share with listeners today?
Well, we just finished a collaboration with both teachers in the high school and teachers and librarian and children at one of our local elementary schools. This is the second year, so we thought we would talk about that.
Yeah.
Since actually last year, Brandy was the one that brought the idea to attention from TikTok. Wasn't it, Brandy?
Yeah, I was watching YouTube, and I came across this artist who is a teacher at, I don't even know what school, but she was a ceramics teacher, and we have a wonderful ceramics program at our high school. And they made these monsters that they had collaborated with a second grade or a first grade group in all their elementary. So it was a huge project for them. We did ours down a little bit, especially for that first year. And I just love the idea of the collaboration and having these little kids create these monsters from their imaginations and bringing them and create them into a ceramic piece. And we took it one step further, and we also invited one of our English classes who is teaching, it's 11th grade group, teaching monsters, myths, and mayhem. So they created a story based on those monsters, and that's how it started. And then this year, it was a little different. So Nancy, why don't you?
Yeah, so I think the key this year and last year was that it started at the elementary level with the librarian there reading books about monsters with the elementary children. This was an enrichment art program for second and third graders. So they looked at a lot of different books about monsters and they looked at their facial features and their physical characteristics, their habitat, the aspects of these monsters, like their personalities and that kind of thing. And then the children illustrated both a front and a back of these monsters that they dreamt up. Those illustrations were color copied and sent to the high school. Then we distributed them. So our part was really facilitating this collaboration. So we shared those monster images with both the junior level Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem class and the ceramics class. And they distributed, there were 20. They distributed those illustrations amongst the students in their class sections. And then over a period of probably 8 weeks, the ceramic pieces were created based on the illustration. So 3-dimensional, fired clay with glaze, gorgeous, amazing depictions of these, 1-dimensional illustrations. And then the second component was the bookmaking, the storytelling. So it was so adorable. They did Canva.
Yes.
Canva book telling. Last year, we learned from this because last year we thought we would be really creative with bookmaking, different ways to bind, and it took a lot because the high school students that had written the stories had come to us with all different sizes and shape materials to create a book with. This was a little more standard to ease the transition.
Mm.
And then for our part physically, what did we do to set up?
We set up the library.
Yeah. Well, we set up the library. We had great art, panels. We moved those into place with tables for display. We got some treats. The second and third graders came up on a bus, and we had a little reception.
Yeah.
But the best part really was when the children and the high school kids paired up, walked around, found a little quiet spot in the library for sharing of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then what did the little kids do? What did they bring with them this time?
The little kids had made, because it is an extracurricular art club, they created their own little monsters out of the Play-Doh that hardens. And so their interpretation of their own monster, and also little tiny books that were just so adorable. And they were the accordion style. And these kids, these high schoolers, absolutely loved them, that they thought of them in this way. And it was just very special. So
really special.
Yeah.
Wow, this is gold. I mean, this is absolute gold. And you're right. What is your role in this? Well, you're the reason why this cross-district collaboration, inter-school collaboration happened. It was pieced together not by the art teacher, the ELA teacher, or the elementary. It was pieced together by the school librarians, and then you host. And you made this a reality because you pieced together all of these amazing programs, which singularly, on their own, are fantastic, but putting it together all of a sudden heightens the stakes for the kids. They're going to do a good job because they want to work with other students. And oh my gosh, this is so huge. I'm like, okay, all right, it's a win for me. I'm done. All right, friends, you guys are amazing. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your conference. Thank you so much. And this is wonderful. Thank you, because I'll tell you right now, what an inspiration. There are so many people listening right now who could absolutely take this idea and run with it. So that's amazing. You're wonderful. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Amy.
My name is Dawn Lee. I work at Morris High School in Bath, Maine. I'm the school library media specialist, and I also teach this really cool class called Unified Literacy. And I co-teach that with the functional life skills teacher at our high school. And basically, Unified Literacy is our students that are enrolled in our functional life skills class. Students with intellectual disabilities are paired with students from our Gen Ed population, and together they become learning partners. And with learning partners, because it's an integrated humanities class. They read together. They also experience art. I teach art history on Thursdays with the class, which is really cool. We work a lot with movement. We have partnered with a local writer who comes in once every 2 weeks and helps the students with writing and expression. And our program started out as a pilot program 4 years ago with 6 students who were identified with intellectual disabilities and 6 students who were in our gen ed population. It just exploded. And now we have 60 people in our program, and we don't believe in waiting lists. So we just keep on adding more chairs to our class. And our classes run between 29 and 30 students a semester. The cool thing about this is that we celebrate students' learning. We have a huge art and poetry gala at the end of the school year with over 500 community members that attend. I have students who are nonverbal that use assistive communication devices. We have presented at 7 state and regional conferences over the last 2 years, and all but one student volunteered to present, and we never deny opportunity. And so students who are nonverbal are also talking about their learning experiences, along with students who maybe have never had the opportunity to speak in front of a group, and they're advocating for their learning. They're celebrating what they're doing, and basically it's inclusion at its best. This program was so successful. We've had unified sports for some time in our school since 2017. But what has happened is after COVID and the pandemic, we were finding that a lot of our students in our functional life skills class were not speaking. They shut down. And so the teacher who teaches our functional life skills students and I came up with this wild idea as we were running down the hall one day, going on to our next class, and we had basically about 8 weeks to put it together. And we launched it second semester of that year. And 5 weeks later, our students were presenting to the school board. So we're on to something. It's a celebration of learning, and students take ownership of our class. We have about 2 school districts a month that come and visit us to see what our program is. Maine PBS just came out and filmed our class, and that will be launched in September. And it's a celebration of all that's best in learning. And it's a celebration of libraries and what they can provide to students and to a school. I've been teaching for a really long time, and I'm a believer in literacy, and this is literacy immersion at its best. And it's built such a wonderful cooperative learning community.
I have to ask you,
Sure.
You have brought the different components of your school that were acting independently. So you had ELA programs. You had programs which were supporting our students with needs. Because I'll be honest, when you said unified, I thought you were going to talk about sports.
Right,
because we have unified sports. And it's really been a wonderful addition to our program. I mean, it is... Again, the kind of energy around it, the student energy and participation is incredible. But taking it to an academic level, can you go into a little bit of detail about like when you sort of said, actually, like bring me to that aha moment, and what was the time frame between aha and having this a reality in front of you and saying, wow, this happened because the school librarian had a moment?
Actually, I started in October of 2021. Jonathan Fisk, who is our functional life skills teacher at Morris, hopped into the library one day. He said, hey, you have a fireplace in your library, and you have these really comfortable chairs, and my students have been isolated during COVID, and they're shutting down. Could they come into the library? Well, yes, everybody is welcome into the library. And so we started talking. I said, well, I can do some programming. I can do some literature integration with your students. And as we were talking over the course of about 2 weeks, I said, we have a unified sports model that I think might work for this. How about if we design a class that students from our gen ed population are placed together? Because studies show when we read together and we learn together and we are part of a community of learners, everybody benefits. So he said, okay. So that's the beginning of November. At our school, we have to petition any new courses we want to teach to the department heads in December. Well, that was kind of easy. I was a department head, so I could kind of help that, push that through. And so we gave a presentation, everybody gave a thumbs up, and then it goes to the school board. And the school board said, yeah, this sounds cool. It doesn't cost the same money. It's not extra personnel. It's a pilot program. And I have to give a lot of credit to our building principal. Granted, this is still in December of 2021, and we got their approval. He said, you have nothing to lose. If it's successful, that's wonderful. And if it fails, oh well. So in January of 2022, with about 5 weeks worth of preparation, we launched the pilot program with 6 students from Jonathan's functional life skill class. We took about half that class, and we recruited 6 students from our gen ed population. Some of them were familiar with unified sports. They had been participating in unified basketball. We also had a unified PE class at the time too. And we just moved into a brand new high school. Our library is beautiful. It's all glass. It looks out into the main lobby of the school and the cafeteria. And people started watching. They said, geez, people are having fun in there. They're smiling, they're laughing, they're learning, and they're doing cool stuff. And so word got that out about 4 weeks into the program. Now we're into February. This is a cool thing. And as far as we can tell at the time, nobody else was doing unified academics at all. And then the school board invited us to present. And Jonathan and I decided, well, nobody wants to hear us. We're kind of boring. But how about we have the kids present? So we had 2 sets of learning partners. And learning partners are somebody who's enrolled in our functional life skill class, somebody in our gen ed class. And so 4 students presented. Jonathan and I did a short intro, and the students talked about their experience. But granted, we'd only been in class for about 5 or 6 weeks, but what they expressed was just absolutely beautiful. And you need to remember that people were just coming out of COVID, and things were not very joyful. And the school board was crying and smiling. The parents of our students who are under they never have had the opportunity to be represented. They're speaking in front of a school board, and they are articulating their learning. They're talking about how special this is. And so after that semester, we then grew the program that we offered it as a semester program 1 semester, and we had about 25 to 27 students that enrolled. And then it got so popular, we offer it year-round now, both first and second semester. And 2 years ago, we had a waiting list. We're usually capped at 25 for a class. It has to do with seating and size. But we looked at each other and said, well, we can move in more desks, we can make more room, and the library has 2 classrooms, and we can spread out into the student commons. We can make this work. So we now offer the class both semesters, 30 students at a clip, and it's just wonderful. And we invite anybody to come and visit our program. Our doors are always open. As I said before, our students present at conferences, and Maine PBS has come in to film us, and we would love to spread this wonderful, wonderful program across the nation because it makes sense, and it doesn't cost a lot of extra money.
Well, and let's not forget the key component, and that's the librarian. The librarian who conceived and said, wait a minute, we can do better. And somebody's going to ask me this question because ELA is oftentimes you've got a 9, 10, 11, and a 12. Is this grade relevant, or is this seen more as like an ELA electives that your ELA team would offer? So it'd be different grades mixing together.
Right, that's correct. Anybody between the age grades 9 through 12 can take this. It's considered an English elective, though the English department really doesn't plan curriculum. We're in a 5-year curriculum cycle. Jonathan, the functional life skills teacher, and I designed the curriculum, and there's such freedom in that. We decided most of our functional life skills students do not take a fine arts class. And it has to do with a whole host of things. And I'm thinking, well, that's ludicrous. One of our graduation requirements is all students have to have fine arts. So I thought, well, let's just wrap that into this. So we do a unit on art history. We study an artist. I don't believe in cookie cutter art. but I have enough art background that we integrate art projects into that. Our students can write. Right now, we are finishing up a Faith Ringgold project. We studied about Faith Ringgold and her stories of protest and community. We read Tar Beach, and from there, they created this whole art project. And I invite anybody to come and visit. So you're in Michigan, right?
Right, exactly. Well, but perhaps maybe we can extend this to a larger conversation with a glass of wine one night, and then we'll record this as an episode. You think I'm kidding? I'm not, because I have so many more questions about this. But again, it comes back to this idea that school librarians bring people together in ways that it is vitally important that the school librarians start to initiate this and not to say, oh, I'm the librarian, this isn't my wheelhouse. Would you please come back and visit us? I want to make sure we have an opportunity to talk to other Maine school librarians, and I would love to hear more from you. Let's get together sometime in the future, okay?
Okay,
thank you
so much.
Perfect. Have a great conference.
Bye. Thank you.
My name is Reagan Parker. I work at Buxton Center Elementary School, which is in Buxton, Maine. It is part of the Bonnie Eagle or MS86 school district. My school is a pre-K to 5 school with over 500 students. And in a typical week, I see over 30 classes.
Oh my gosh, that's a busy day. It is nonstop mayhem.
It is. It is quite busy. 4 days a week, I see 7 classes, and then Wednesdays, I have 4 classes in the morning, and then the afternoons when it's a full day, because we have early releases a couple Wednesdays a month. When it's a full day, that's my collaboration time where I have a calendar that I offer teachers time to reserve time with me for more collaborative lessons.
Wow, fantastic. So what is it you'd like to share with listeners today?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about ways that I'm getting books to be returned on time, because when you have over 500 students, it can be a struggle. And one thing we were finding was the traditional paper overdue notes were not working. I was finding them. I remember one time I was walking down the hall to look for some missing books, and we were checking in one of the students' cubbies, and I could find the overdue notes were still in there, crumbled up. And we knew it wasn't working, so we needed to find something better. And one of the things that we started doing was we work with Alexandria as our circulation system, and they have an option, a notice for coming due items. So one of the things that we do is it can send out emails the night before. So emails go home the night before saying, tomorrow's library day. Please bring your library books back. And that cut our overdues in half just by that.
So I have a quick question. Are your library days fixed, like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Because I got to be honest, like where we really struggled, and I did elementary for 14 years, was that our library day was A day, B day, C day, D day. So it's not like you could say, hey, every Thursday you got to bring your library book. But this is huge because, I'm sorry, it's not punitive. It's you are giving them a heads up that the books are due. Oh my gosh. So your book returns must be really successful.
It cut it in half. We still have some that are, the parents, still are not maybe missing the emails, or maybe they're distracted when they read it. I think time of day is important when I send it. If I send it too early in the day, they might see the email and then forget about it later. And so really need to make sure it goes out later so that when they see it. But I've had staff members who are also parents say to me, thank you so much for that reminder. I get the email and I tell my kid, put your book in your bag. That's been helping a lot. The other thing that we've been doing is incentive systems. So we have for the classes, each kid has a card, almost like a loyalty card. When you get a certain number of stamps, you get something. So when they bring the books back on time, they get a punch in their card, and then they work towards earning different things. So right now, my 3rd graders, they're working towards earning self-checkout because once they get to fourth grade, I do self-checkout for my fourth and fifth graders on Alexandria. So once they get 20 books back on time, then they are earning the opportunity to do self-checkout. For the younger kids, things like squishies or other fun incentives. And they're always asking when they're checking out, how many more punches do I need till my next reward? So they know that they're working towards earning something. So getting the motivation for the kids as well as a friendly reminder to the parents, because especially the little ones, they're not going to know. So we have to really rely on the adults to remind them. And as an adult, I know I forget things all the time too. Having that email reminder, like I have email reminders every day to remind me, send out the reminder emails to the parents. So I need that reminder or I forget. So I have a Google Calendar email shoot out to me every day saying, time to send out the reminder so I don't forget. So I can relate to needing some sort of reminder to help me do something. So that has definitely been helping try to get those books back on time.
I'm fascinated because, ultimately holding that self-checkout as a goal for your students costs you nothing. You don't have to go to the dollar store. You're not looking for trinkets. You're not giving them something that costs you something out of your budget. This is genius. They're earning a privilege, and they see it as a privilege, and they are motivated not because of stuff, but because you're enabling them to take more control over their library experience.
Absolutely. And for my second graders, what they're working towards earning now is what I call their VIP passes. Usually after they get the books checked out, they have their assigned tables they go to. But with the VIP pass, they're all welcome to sit in other areas. We have our little reading corner. We have our big cushy chairs. So they're working towards earning that. So now once they get 20 books back on time, they can have free choice seating during that time. And they love that. I have lanyards and I have these little special VIP passes printed out for them that they get to wear. They love doing that. They feel so important when they're wearing their VIP passes.
That's incredible. Listen, what a great strategy you've offered us to help, because forgive me, but classroom management in the library looks very different than it does in the classroom. And yet, as traditional teachers, we tend to apply some of those strategies in our library. But I've sort of described my library when I was in elementary as just, it's recess with bookshelves, because in the kids, it's oftentimes treated like a recess with books. And you really, unfortunately, there can be a certain amount of mayhem that ensues. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your strategies. I hope you have a fantastic conference. And anytime you want to share some of your best practices for, survival strategies as a seasoned elementary librarian, please come back on the show and we'd love to have you.
Great. Thank you very much. It was wonderful meeting you. I listen to your podcast when I am driving to work, so I love it.
Fabulous. Have a great conference.
Thank you.
I am Beth Anderson. I am the current president of the Maine Association of School Libraries. Yes.
Madam President. Yes.
Currently, I'm an elementary librarian in a pre-K through 4 library in South Portland, Maine. So I have been there 5 years. I was a high school librarian prior to that. Made the change. COVID happened, right? And it seemed like a time where I was going to make a big change, and it brings me joy and happiness every day. My previous job did too, but high school kids don't hug you as much as those elementary kids. And I say one of the biggest differences is that I was trying to always build the enthusiasm in high school, like do that song and dance, like research is so much fun. Here we go. And the young kids walk in with that enthusiasm and I try to rein it in. So that is like what I feel is the big difference.
Well, let's explore that. I mean, because, there are so many people. We are K-12. I mean, most of us are certified. It's a K-12 certification. And I got to tell you, it isn't always when we're assigned to that first library, it isn't necessarily our first love. Like I'll tell you what, as a high school teacher, being assigned to pre-K through 5 for the first 14 years of my library tenure, but you realize like you pick your problems, right? So let's talk a little bit more about that because, there are a lot of people listening right now. It's interview season. People are starting to explore like other job opportunities and they want to know what it's like. And you've hit upon something at the energy level. You're absolutely right. But I'll tell you the other cool thing. Elementary kids don't expect to have phones with them at all times.
They don't. And so, right, we have devices. Every student has a device at school. And we have iPads and Chromebooks. The younger kids get iPads. But there's a lot of times that I just don't have them bring it to the library. And so you're right. That is one battle I don't fight every day. And recently, we've just passed some legislation here in Maine. And by recently, I mean yesterday. I have a cell phone ban in schools. And we're not sure of the logistics about that yet. And so that is to be worked out. But that is going to be very interesting. We've had a lot of schools this year that have instituted that rule in their schools, but now it's going to be statewide. So, but yes, that could be very different next year.
Love what you do. You love the age. You love the age group. Give us some ideas. Do you have some real home runs when it comes to working with your kids? If I came to observe you, if I wanted to watch best practice, because you obviously excel at this, this is you're in your sweet spot right now, and clearly you're not looking for an off ramp. Could you give us? You're talking to some brand new, never been in their own library. What are some absolutely thou shalt do's in an elementary library?
I feel like it's programming beyond the classes. And I'm lucky that I have some time in my schedule that allows me to do that. And I know not everyone does. But one of my goals as a school librarian is to build library patrons for life. So I want to make sure that they see the library as a safe space, as a research space, as a place to come for books, but also as a place where programming happens, because I want them to use our public libraries for that. I want them to use their middle school, high school libraries. I want them when they're adults to bring their children to, story time at a library. So I host writing clubs during recess. I'm lucky that I worked with my administrator so that I don't have a duty every day. So I am able to host writing club. And that really has turned into a creation club because some kids really love to make Google slideshows, right? And then we have author chair or presentation time about 3 times a year where they get to sit up in front of everyone and share what they created. And they can invite their friends who aren't in this club regularly. It's drop-in too. No obligation. If it's a beautiful day, you want to go outside or do something different, you can. I also have something that is a little bit more required. You do have to attend every week. It's called Digital Ambassadors. The first year, and it took off far more than I could have anticipated. So 3rd graders had to fill out an application about why they wanted to be a digital ambassador, tell me a little bit about their tech use, because I wanted to have kids that gamed all the time, kids that weren't on devices, and then those kids that were in the middle, because we needed to reach all the kids. And so they meet once a week. So they filled out the application. I chose 10 kids that filled the span. We meet once a week for lunch. We discuss, there's time for them to ask questions. We discuss what they've done this week with technology. But what it's really morphed into is they put on skits in front of the school at our assembly about good tech use. It is amazing. They write their own skits. We practice, they perform, and it has been something that the younger kids look forward to. Oh, they also pop into my classes when I'm doing technology lessons with my younger classes, particularly when we're getting kindergartner kids on their tablets for the first time. We have those 4th graders come in and help the kids. And I am a solo person in my library without support. So it is a game changer for me because you know how many questions kids have when they're trying to get on a certain app for the first time. And it's great. It's changed the vocabulary in our school. I hear kids using those words in the hallway, like, you don't walk with your laptop open. You should close your laptop. That's not safe. Or don't leave your laptop on the floor. Someone could step on it, right? And so we do fist high. If a teacher's talking, you fist high your laptop. And so that I hear that a lot more now because we've done those skits and they've made posters for the school. So that has been one program that I'm just extremely proud of. And I think I'm proud of it, but really I'm proud of the kids because they took it and they made it what it is.
Well, and I think anytime you want to have a successful program, you first and foremost have to use your students as your inspiration. You have to give them agency. You have to give them a certain amount. You have to elevate them in terms of their value that they bring to their student body. And so, no, it's a winning formula for sure. Madam President, you have this wonderful day of celebration, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I know you're juggling a lot of things going on, but Maine is awfully lucky to have you, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Well, thank you for being with us. Take care.
My name is Kathy Potter, and I am a middle school librarian for grades 6, 7, and 8. And I also am a tech integrator, so I do both roles. And I collaborate a lot with my teachers to bring in students, and we work together a lot on units of study and information literacy. And my favorite way to advocate for my library is through end-of-year reports. I feel like I've been doing this for a while, and at the end of the year, I like to create a report, usually in either Canva or PictoChart, something that's interactive and digital, but could also be printed, that includes photos and descriptions of lessons I've taught, programs that I have worked on, connections to learning standards. If I have statistics, I'll include those around circulation or number of classes visited. It's just a great way to toot your own horn and make it really visible to everybody, because I think it's hard in a school when everyone is in their own room doing their own thing. They don't see what's happening in the library, and it can be shared out with parents. It can be shared. I always print a copy, give it to the principal, give a copy to the superintendent. And then I also print out copies and leave them in the library. So when people think, oh, it's just a place where kids are getting books and they're coming and getting books, they are getting books, but we're also teaching and collaborating, and there's a lot of learning. And anything that we do, like an author visit, I'll photograph and talk about the grant I wrote to get the author and how it connected to English. So it's just like tooting your own horn.
Listeners are going to want to know, because I understand the importance of sharing this with your evaluator. Like, I'm that micro, like I'm just going to hone in on the one audience member who is at the end of the day going to decide if I am valuable or not, is the person who directly evaluates me and gives me the seal of approval for a job well done. So the question I have for you is, when you say you share it with so many different stakeholders, and I hate to speak admin, but that's what we're talking about, right? So we're talking about all the different people. What does that look like? Like, when you share this out, is it a printed book? Is it a link that people can visit? So give me a little more details about the final product. I love the components, because you've introduced some ones that I didn't think of before. But what does the delivery mechanism look like if you're handing this out to your other stakeholders, like parents and your Board of Education?
So by making it digital, I can share the link. I can post it on the library website. I can email it to my staff. I can also print copies so that if somebody walks in the library, they could physically hold it. But then if I have a digital version of it, then I can also have several years worth available easily online. So it's a great way. And I usually also include things like, if I spoke at a conference, I put that in about myself, not just my program, so they can see. And the other thing I like to do is make a little section of goals for next year. Here's what I'm planning for next year.
Wow. So, there's so many directions we could take this next question, but, you mentioned using what you've done this year to direct your goals for next year. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I feel like every year during the year we come up with an idea. Maybe you talk with a teacher, or you read a professional text, or I go to a conference and I think, oh, I want to do that. For example, I really want to work on improving digital citizenship in my school, but I am not a proponent of the isolated, sit and get lesson. I'm more, how can we integrate it into what the kids are already learning? So I'm working with a health teacher to try to figure out how can we weave some of that into the health curriculum. And so that would be one of my goals for next year. And I actually have the Kristen Mattson book, Ethics in Digital Literacy, I think it's called. And I'm trying to figure out how can I work the ethics into maybe some of the English classes that are already doing some of that, but how could I work with them on that?
So I will say, I've interviewed Kristen about her book. And I absolutely will put a link to that conversation in this episode, friends. But I love that this is, you recognize that there's always an opportunity for you to improve upon something that you've maybe sort of just scratched the surface of. You've absolutely just sort of, we've started looking at something, but you realize there's so much more room for improvement, and you can build on the success that you've had this year and make yourself even more integral to your students' learning experience for sure. And I'm sure your staff they're incredibly fond of you and all the work that you do for them. Can you give us a home run if you had to spotlight a program that you find absolutely a win with your students and staff?
I think we do a lot of inquiry-based research, and there's a big end-of-year 8th grade inquiry-based choice project that the students complete before they go to high school, and we pull everything together they've learned over the last 3 years, and it's co-taught. The social studies teachers and I teach it together, and the students create a project, but I teach them annotated bibliographies as part of it, and it pulls in all of the, how do you know that this is a trustworthy source, and how did you sift it, and all of the things they've learned, culminating, and then the students present, and the high school teachers love it because they know that these students, they have these skills going into high school, but they're doing it in this really student-centered way based on 20th and 21st century topics in American history. So we get such a range of topics based on what the students are interested in, and we use all of our library resources, and that's been a really successful unit that we do.
Well, and that sense of vertical planning, because now your counterpart at the high school has a baseline to go on. That's amazing. That's absolutely huge. I'm so grateful you took some time out of your conference today. I'm jealous. You're at your state conference. Let me ask you, you're a lifelong learner. What's a session you're excited to go to today?
I think there's an AI session that is run by our state Department of Ed has an emerging technology expert on staff who is a former classroom teacher, and she's running a session about the role of AI in libraries. And so I'm really excited about hearing from Nicole.
Outstanding. Kathy, have a fantastic conference, and I wish you the very best as we wrap up the school year.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Liz Gilmet, and I am the librarian at Maranacook High School, which is in central Maine. I serve 4 small rural Maine towns. And then I'm also MASL's president-elect, and I'll take over as president in June 1st. So
wow, I thought you were going to say like 10 minutes from now. In 10 minutes, I'll be president.
No, I get a little bit more time to.
Congratulations. You are ascending. Does it come with a tiara?
No, I wish, but, so some disco balls today for our Nazzle Dazzle theme.
Excellent. Well, I will say I have met presidents of state organizations who have been gifted a tiara and to wear for special occasions. So if you need to go that route, you would not be the first, and nobody would blame you. It's a lot of work. You deserve a crown.
Thank you. I'm excited I'm nervous about stepping into the role, but excited to. I really took it on. I'm a teacher, an English teacher turned librarian. So I have been a librarian for now. It's 5 years. And so I joined the association when I first took the role because I wanted to be involved, and have just taken on roles because I like the people that are in the association and want to work with them more. And this is where it has led.
Well, Maine people are lovely. I'm getting to meet a lot of you today. This is very fun. So, and good on you to have joined your state organization immediately. Like that for me did not happen for about 5 years because I don't think I came up for air because I was so overwhelmed by my job. But let me ask you, what is it that you'd like to share with listeners today?
So a couple things. So I am definitely a rural Maine librarian. And I think you were saying like joining right away. It's because I was alone in my school and then a little bit in my district. Right now, I'm even probably a little bit more alone in my district because we have one librarian for the elementary, one for the middle, and one for the high school. But our elementary serves 4 schools. So I think if I didn't get involved with the association, I would have been kind of really alone in that role. But so I think one thing I would say to like share is to get involved and join your associations, and that they are really a great network. And then rural library wise, I think the thing I would share and want to talk about is just like how much I lean into like community support and community partnerships. Like rural also means a lot of times not a ton of funding or support. So finding creative ways, which I will say a lot of that I got from being in my association. Like I got an idea from another librarian about working with their tech center and vocational classes to build like I got a new circulation desk built for me by an honors wood design class.
Wait, that's huge. So first of all, you mention that collaboration because oftentimes that funding for those programs is federal funding. So tell me more about this desk and how did that process like happen? Was it you just complaining to the wood shop teacher? I mean, how did this happen?
A little. So I inherited a circulation desk, I think, from when the school opened in the 70s. And it was like a nice piece of solid wood. And so like well made, but there was no great like desk space. Like it wasn't functional. There was no real like, kids come in and they lean on the circulation desk and they talk to you, but then they're also like in your workspace or looking at all your stuff. So I needed a little separation of, service space from workspace. And then another librarian in a neighboring district did an affinity group for our association talking about how she did a project like this with her. They have a vocational school like tied to their high school. And so I got that idea. She shared some of the plans and design. And I went to my wood shop teacher and said, because we have an honors wood design class and they're always looking for projects to do, and brought it to him. And he's great. He's always very game to do these type of things. And we have a local grant program through our school. So we applied for a grant to get some extra money for the materials. And just I pitched it to my principal because if you have ever looked at the cost of new library furniture through catalog or school furniture, it is tens of thousands of dollars. And so I could pitch something for much less. So, and then actually she just had to buy, my principal is very supportive of the library, we have 2 standing desks. And then the wood shop basically built a frame and countertop kind of around those standing desks.
Well, and I love that the solution not only saves money because, at the end of the day, you have the attention of your administrators when what you're doing is asking for support and ways to save money. But I love that you now have students in your school who can visit their work and see it being used in real time. And it's going to be there for a while. Like you're giving them actual, I'm not manufacturing some excuse for you to make something, which is, just sort of hypothetical. This is real world problem solving at its best. And you're using the talent in your school.
Yes, it was very fun to do a photo shoot with them after they were done. They all signed their names to some shelving inside. So it was very fun. But I'm very grateful to the other school librarian who shared her experience with the association and let me kind of ask her all these questions along the way.
So I am curious because listeners want to know, what was your start to finish? What was how quickly did the concept produce a new piece of furniture in your library, like start to finish, give the listeners an idea of how did this all like come together? Because I know there are people tuning in right now who absolutely are planning on doing this. You know, it's April, so probably not this year, but you could certainly plant the seeds of this idea in your own school. So give us an idea of turnaround time. How did this all happen?
So I listened to Marissa. She did an affinity group for MASL in the fall. And so I listened to that and kind of took that. And then I went to the woodshop teacher and asked him, and he said he was game. We have the local grant is in the fall. So I applied to get that money. And then he has an honors wood design class that started in the second semester. So they did not work super fast, I will say. Like it was, there's a learning curve of work there. And so they built part of it in the spring, and then the class ended. And so a new group of people come in the fall. So there's a little bit of a shifting, and then they inherit this project. It took, I would say, 2 semesters of a class, because then they just installed it this winter. So before the semester ended in January, their goal was to finish it. So.
Well, and forgive me, we are spoiled by Amazon. We expect things to be shipped next day. But even when it comes to furniture that's made in a manufacturing plant, that turnaround is not if anybody's ever in their career been able to order furniture, there is going to be this turnaround. I still think this is a win. This is a huge win. I love that your alumni can come back, and don't be surprised when they want to come show like their family members their signature on your desk.
Yes, it's been very cool to see them celebrate.
I love it. This is absolutely fantastic. Listen, you are obviously doing a lot today. It is your state conference. I want you to go and enjoy. Thank you so much for sharing this idea, because I know there are a lot of people going, oh, hey, this is something I'm going to do myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
My name's Abby. I am a pre-K through 12 school librarian in Rangeley, Maine, which is up in the Western Mountains. It is a gorgeous area to work and live in, and I get to work in a really unique school because we are pre-K through 12 all in one building with one library and one librarian, which is me.
Listen, I think this is genius. I truly do. And I know that it's a solution for a lot of schools where you might be in a situation that's more rural and having separate buildings just is prohibitive. But wonderful, because being K-12, we are certified K-12, but what does this look like if I were to walk into your library? Because you have to service, you've got 3 and 4-year-olds, and you have kids who are already 18. So what does that look like? Because I'm dying to know.
So it helps to have a really flexible, almost ADHD brain, because you're pretty much pivoting every 30 minutes. Like it is never the same. No day looks the same. You're kind of always, you've got to be super nimble. So I have pre-K through 5 has a weekly library time. So they're in for 30 to 40 minutes once a week. That is probably my most consistent schedule. I also get to collaboratively team teach a digital citizenship, media literacy, and tech integration class as part of our middle school specials rotation. I know. So our tech integrator and I get to work together and team teach this class. It's amazing. It's super fun. And then I go in more by request at the high school level. So there, I don't get full classes that necessarily come in to use the library, but I'll support like our AP research class, AP seminar class, things like that. And then obviously students pre-K through 12 can come into the library to check out and return books as they need, whenever they need, so long as their classroom teacher knows where they're going.
Well, and I have to ask then, because it sounds like, do you have like an assistant or somebody else who's holding down the fort? So if a class needs you, they're coming to you, correct?
Yes. So it all does have to be scheduled in advance. And something that I do in those like contract summer days is work with each grade span team. Okay, when do you want your class to come in for library? Okay, you're coming in Tuesdays at 9. Great, that's your time slot. For middle school, okay, your specials rotation, each grade level is going to be during which quarter. Okay, so we're done. And then everything else gets slotted in around that. And it is just me. I don't have an assistant. I don't have an ed tech.
So that's my next question. So if you obviously have a fixed schedule and a flexible schedule, which is sort of superimposed over the fixed schedule.
Yes.
So how do your teachers reach? I mean, are we talking about like a Google sheet where they can sort of see the week at a glance? I know that's our solution. We have a Google sheet which outlines all the different spaces, and teachers fill in that hey, 5th hour I'm going to be doing this, or 6th hour I'm going to be doing this, and they can do that. But how do your teachers who want to come in know what your existing obligations are to your fixed schedule?
They don't. They just kind of call. And if it's like hey, I need to bring my class in right now, if I pick up the phone, it means I'm not currently teaching.
Okay.
And if I don't pick up the phone, it means that I'm probably like on the rug with an elementary class.
Okay, but I'm not near my phone. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I teach in a space that feels like the equivalent of, I don't know, a football field, because it's long and narrow and whatever. But I am never near my phone, which is why my friends, when I work together, we all text. But again, so they call you, and if you don't pick up, you're busy.
Yeah. And so often it has to be scheduled in advance. Like, they've got to come see me and we've got to put something. I've tried a Google Calendar in the past and seeing if and that just didn't work. We're such a small building. I mean, we only have one first grade teacher. We have one second grade teacher. We have one middle school science teacher, and they teach 6th, 7th, and 8th science. We have one high school math teacher, and they teach 9, 10, 11, 12. Math, and then gosh, pre-calc and whatever else needs to get taught on top of that. So we're small enough.
Okay, I'm getting it. I'm getting a better picture right now. But again, okay, so then you're given a budget, and you've got all these many needs. And thankfully, it's not like you have to verify. You're not like, you don't have a co-librarian. You don't have anybody else's opinions who matter in this conversation. It's with yourself. How are you best going to support your building? What does that look like from a budgetary perspective? Because obviously you want to be equitable, but you also want to build, as I tell people, some things take money, some things take time, and some things take both, So how what does that look like when you're trying to be really fair in how you're dividing up your budget?
Yeah, it's student feedback. I am always soliciting the students who, when they come in, what are you interested? What are you reading? What are you watching for TV? What are you watching for movies? What are you playing for video games? And all of that informs how and what I buy. And I do. I have to be very careful and make sure that I'm equitably distributing a very limited budget, across an elementary, a middle, and a high school grade span. Yeah, and it is, I would say 80% of my purchasing is student driven.
Well, and the other obvious question when you are supporting students who are 3 and 4 and students who are now 18, what does that look like during book checkout when you've got students who are like, I want to check out the books that are over there? What does that look like? And how do you work with students who are either precocious or they're, advanced readers? All of a sudden, you can offer them a very wide array of things that are at different reading levels, different maturity levels. What does that look like when you are the one person standing between them and reading something that is meant for somebody much older and more capable of understanding those advanced concepts?
So my library is kind of set up right now, physically set up, where kind of K through 5 to 6-ish, lower middle grade, right, is kind of all the books are on one side. And then 6-ish and up are on the other. And I do hold a general line that K through 5, you are borrowing only from one side of the library until you are in 6th grade. And at 6th grade, the very first meeting that I have with them is a big sit-down conversation of like, you now have the whole library at your disposal. That means that there are going to be books in here that are really written for an audience that's 16, 17, 18, even adult. So you need to know what you can handle for narrative and character and content and language. And so we have a big conversation about that. Now, for that 4th grader and 5th grader who reads up, and I'll say, I have a 10-year-old, and this is my struggle with her. She reads up, but I don't necessarily want to hand her the content just yet because she's 10. She's 10. So at that point, if they're showing a real sincere interest in reading up, I tell them, go home, talk to your grown-ups. Talk to your grown-ups about what you're seeing on this other side of the library that you think is interesting and exciting. And if they're cool with it, they can email me. And the moment I have communication from a grown-up that they're copacetic with this, we're going to rock and roll. But I'm going to need that communication from your grown-up first.
I love it. This is amazing. Thank you so much. I got to be honest, I've never met anybody like you. I really am, but I'm in awe. I'm in absolute awe. Listen, I want you to go have a fantastic conference. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I know this isn't the last time we're gonna talk. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. It's so nice to finally meet you. I listen to your podcast a lot, so this is great.
And you know what? People are going to be listening to you on Friday.
Oh my gosh. Okay, cool.
Thanks so much, Abby.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Gretchen Hartley, and I work in Topsom, Maine at 2 elementary schools. I have a full-time paraprofessional at each one, and I've been a single librarian, and I kind of like the collaboration of having someone to work with at each school. And we have a fixed schedule. One school has 19 classes a week, and the other school has 13. So I try to teach the upper level classes. My para teaches the K to 2 classes, but the schedule doesn't really work out. So, we do what we can.
Wow. So forgive me, are you on a Monday through Friday, or are you on an A day, B day, C day, D day? Like, how do you balance your physical availability when you are divided between 2 schools?
I'm at one school Monday, Tuesday, and every other Wednesday. And then the other 2 schools, the end of the week and the other Wednesday. Last year, I tried to split Wednesdays, and you don't get anything done. Too much transition time.
I think that's genius, because we worked for 3 hours in a building, and then we left. And the time you lose in having to pick, set up, tear down, go to another space, your district's also paying for mileage every day. It was a slow death. Anyway, but tell me, I'm so excited. Gretchen, what is it you'd like to share with listeners today?
Okay, I want to share about an AI program that I ran with 4th and 5th graders that was very hands-on, and it really, I think, helped them see what bias in AI, how that works. I went to our state technology conference, Actum, and went to a session about given by the local state math and science person. And it was about Create AI, which is Microbits now has this Create AI online portal, which allows you to use machine learning with microbits. So I wrote a grant and got some microbits for both of my libraries. And what we did was we put these microbits around the neck of a stuffy, sort of like a Fitbit. And we taught the stuffies to do certain things. Like we recorded, the Fitbit allowed the accelerometer, lets you track, where the animal is in space. So the X, Y, and Z axis. So it creates a little graph for a motion. So we had the stuffy jump up and down, and we named that action jump. And we took 10 samples. It's very easy on the software. You just push a button, collect samples, and it'll go for, 10 seconds. And then you're jumping the stuffy. And then at the end, you say, okay, we're going to do another action. And they actually have this as an activity in the Create AI. I didn't even make it up. Then we had roll. So we had the stuffies roll. And then we had sleep. And so then once you collect all your data points, you push a button to train the model. And then you can test it to see if it recognizes what you're doing. And I had them trade it with another pair to say, okay, you do this and see if it recognizes you. And a lot of times it didn't, because their jumping looked different, because, it might be jump, 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 or it might be jump, jump, jump with big jumps. I had students make up their own action as well. They could pick something, and a lot of times they picked dance, or some of them picked the worm. And so that really was illustrative, because when you say dance, of course, dancing looks different to anybody. So when they gave it to their friend to test the model, say dance, it wouldn't recognize it. It would say rolling or jumping or something else. So, we had done some lessons through MIT has some elementary lessons, and that had talked about, showing pictures of alligators and crocodiles and learning how to tell the difference between those. And so they could refer back to those. And I said, so this machine has never seen that action that your friend did. So you have to have your friend train that and then see if it recognizes it.
Can I ask you, because, you mentioned AI, and I think that it's something that a lot of that's sort of like a stop word for a lot of people. Like when you say, hey, I want to do some programming and it involves AI, whoa, going to stop you right there. Okay. Like all of a sudden that's a word that for many people introduces a host of questions, and it elevates the concern for some people just because of the novelty and because of the sort of the potential for issues. It raises concerns for people at this stage of the game. Conversation 5 years in the future, maybe not. But for right now, especially because you're dealing with elementary. So can I ask you contextually, how did you approach this program, knowing that you would have some interested families asking some questions? How did you put AI in a context that for these families would not raise any alarms?
I did an AI lesson during Hour of Code month. I decided to do that instead of what I used to do for Hour of Code, because I just felt like this was what was going on. And so I did get a question from a kindergarten parent about, what are you doing about AI? But really, it was just about, at that age, it was just about knowing that humans need to be involved with machines. I really stuck with machine learning and talking about what is AI in your life and what is not AI. Like, is a sliding door when you go into the grocery store, is that AI? Or is it not? And so I had them debate that a little bit in the middle grades. And so they were really, I think, happy that I wasn't, having them write papers in AI, in elementary school. And really, I'm cautious about doing that. I really feel like I wanted to start with this sort of understanding of what it is and like understanding it better before we get into using it and writing prompts for it.
I think we need to have a place where we can start, and we're increasing the comfort level rather than the alarm level, and I think you found a really great place to do that. And it really makes a lot of sense, because ultimately these kids are going to be moving on to the middle school. And I imagine you do some planning with your middle school counterpart.
Well, our district is really just getting into AI. I was on the tech committee last year, and we wrote the AI policy. And so we've just subscribed to Magic School and kind of gotten going. So we're really just getting started. But yeah, she's in the mix too.
Excellent. Well, they're in good hands. I am so grateful. Gretchen, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a fantastic conference.
You too. It was really fun to meet you. I love listening. I have a 45-minute commute, so I listen to you a lot, and I appreciate all the wisdom from all your wonderful librarians. So I'm thrilled to be able to speak with you.
Well, it's your turn to share. So, I always put that out there that maybe you need to join me one day. We'll pour a glass of wine, press record, and we'll talk more about what you do and what you bring to your schools.
Much easier. I found during the pandemic that it's like my colleague and I decided that half a beer or half a glass of wine is perfect for recording videos.
Well, you would not be the first person, and I will tell you what, I got the idea of pouring myself a cocktail from one of my listeners, but it was at noon, and it involved bourbon. And I thought, wait a minute, if you're having a drink, this was during the summer, friends, I promise. But truly, listen, I hope you have a fantastic conference. Let's connect sometime in the future.
Okay, it was great to meet you. Bye.
Thanks, Gretchen.
My name is Dan Wolotsky. I work at the Falmouth High School in Falmouth, Maine, grades 9 to 12. And I have one librarian assistant who is in the library all day. And that frees me up to be able to get into classrooms, which is where I spend basically all day.
I'm so curious. You said get into the classrooms. Are you leaving the library and working in the classrooms? Or are the classes coming down and working in your space?
Good question. Nope. We are preserving the library space as the library space, and I'm getting out of the library and working in classrooms, a pretty wide variety of classrooms.
What I have found, because I'm also high school, is that ultimately your teachers are happiest and most comfortable in their space. So I think that that's a winning approach for sure. It's likely you'll get more people willing to have you come visit them than if they have to pick up and relocate and disrupt whatever flow they've created in their space. Now, I can also speak to the opposite of that because I do have teachers who are like, we got to just reset. We got to get out of our space. But tell me more. I mean, this is great. Well, how has this helped you build that collaboration with your teachers?
So that's a great question. So I've been in this particular job for 12 years. And for the first few years that I was in this spot, it was a bit of a struggle to have the teachers understand that I had value in terms of their everyday classroom and learning and also planning their instruction. And so a few things happened, really helped a lot, and help them to see me as someone who is going to both improve learning and also make it easier. One of those is COVID. So school change happens for two reasons. One is a compelling vision, and the other is like a potato blight, which is what COVID was. And when there's something bad happening, teachers are willing to make changes when they wouldn't otherwise. At the same time, a compelling vision is another way you can get change. And the change that I was seeking was for the library, for me, to be able to impact the classroom. My message to school librarians, to all school librarians, is they should seek to play outside their spot. The library has diminishing returns. And what I mean by that is making your library look beautiful like the one I'm in is great. And book displays are great, but there's a point of diminishing returns where that is not going to be nearly as impactful on student performance as your contribution to the classroom. And it can be hard to get into the classroom, and it can be very defeating, and you can go home and think, I'll never do it. But you have to keep trying. It's a little bit like traffic on the highway. The difference between like free-flowing traffic and being in bumper to bumper is just a very minute amount of traffic. And so the idea of getting into the classroom is also that way. You just need to get it started. You just need a few people, and you will be able to create that compelling vision, which is you helping students to do better, and also you making the job easier for the classroom teacher.
Well, and again, to go along with your analogy of like traffic, I mean, you're merging into the flow that's already there. And so you're considered you're considered an add-on, but you're also like you're merging into the space. And so you don't have this disruption of pick up all your stuff, let's relocate into, but you also, that requires then that you do have to have an assistant who can, be in your space, because ultimately when somebody walks by and they have questions, if you're not there, all of a sudden that also creates an issue.
Oh, yeah.
So if there is a staffing expectation that you're going to have somebody with you that you work, as a partner. And I love this idea. You mentioned potato plague, and it sort of hit me a little bit late. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. The pandemic was very much our potato plague, because it really just required everybody to come up with a completely different set of responses and answers to problems, because these were not an issue last year, but they are an issue now.
Sure.
Oh my gosh! But I what you were talking about, what you do every day. And what initially came to me was this idea of being a thought partner, but all too often, I associate thought partner with how many of us are sort of working AI into our workflow. And for so many people I talk to who are not necessarily comfortable with using AI, they'll say, and I oftentimes I put myself in this own category, oh, I like it as a thought partner. And I'm thinking, you're that thought partner.
Right.
When you integrate into the classroom as seamlessly as you are, forget about AI.
Yep.
They've got the school librarian, you, as the thought partner, because you're now meeting your teachers where they're at.
Correct. Yeah. And I would say that the other thing that maybe separates me from a thought partner like AI, let me give you another analogy. I think of myself sometimes as a shot of whiskey. And what I mean by that is I'm like a shot of whiskey for a teacher. And what that means is that after you take that shot of whiskey, you are willing to try something that you wouldn't have tried before. And so teachers, I feel one of the biggest things that I do is help teachers have the confidence to go and try a thing that they need to, that their spidey sense is telling them they need to try.
I love that. That is, it makes, I know I'm not the only one who's laughing right now, because, I think you're absolutely right, because they aren't as risk-taking. We need to take risks. If we're going to stay in this profession, if we're going to stay relevant, we have to take risks, but we also have to be that source of support when we are asking our teachers to step a little bit outside their comfort zone. Now, they're still physically in their comfort zone because they're in their happy space. They've created that learning environment, but you're the disruptor who's going to give them the, we're going to do this with baby steps. Don't use that word baby steps, by the way. But just, we're here to do this together. I love that.
Right. Yeah.
Man, I wish you and I worked together more often. Listen, I hope, Dave, at some point you decide to join us and share some more of your philosophy on how we can better support our teachers. I hope you have a fantastic conference. Thank you so much for joining our conversation today.
Thanks, Amy. That was fun.
Thank you.
I'll send in the next person if I can find them.
Listen, you guys, there's so much talent wandering around the halls. Just send them in here. I love it. Thanks so much.
It's random.
My name is Antona Briley. This is my third year as a librarian. I've previously have been a classroom teacher in many different forms, most recently like a language arts teacher in middle school. And now I'm a librarian at a K-4 elementary school. And honestly, I came to this field because one of my librarian colleagues, when I was teaching in the classroom, just one day came in and was like, "You would be so good at library." I got to give a shout out to Meg Rooks. She's a librarian in Portland Public Schools here in Maine. And honestly, like one of the first things I did after Meg said that to me was search up podcasts. And then
While I was driving back and forth, taking my daughter to college, which was about 2.5 hours, I was binging School Librarians United podcast. So your work, I just have to give this shout out right now. Your work and that little sprinkle of like inspiration from another librarian, because that's what we do, really set me on this journey of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I want to just take time right now to just thank you so much for your work. This was back in, it was 2021, 2022. I just appreciate you so much and all the voices that you bring to the world. Like, you bring so many librarians forward and you champion all of that, and you talk about your journey, and I just want to woo woo, Amy Herman.
I don't know if you noticed, but I've done no talking right now. This is about centering the experience of school librarians.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing my job, I press record and my guest does all the work.
Yeah.
I'm going to piece this together. Listen, I'm so grateful. You mentioned, about really this being helpful in making those career choices.
Right.
And I got to be honest, that is really helpful, especially when you hear people who, I remember for me, when I was in library school, the people who were most influential, my instructors who were my absolute favorites, were not the faculty at the university. They were not. They were in the trenches. And I use the word trenches meaningfully, because sometimes you feel a little war-torn, you feel a little embattled. But, people who are in the trenches as school librarians, I drank in every single thing they said, because for me, that meant a heck of a lot more than talking to somebody who works at the collegiate level. And, I know I wanted to hear more of that. I wanted to hear, what is your day like? Tell me what it's like to decide. Right now, we're going into, right now, the jobs are starting to open for next year. People are finding out what kind of availability. We got a lot of people who have the opportunity right now in the spring to start thinking about what would it be like to be teach in a different setting? What would it be like to teach in a different state? What would it be like to teach for a different grade level? And the podcast is designed in such a way that you can find out, hey, I want to hear about Maine because I have the opportunity to move. Hey, I have an opportunity to move to another state. And I, this is an easy opportunity to get a flavor for what it's like to teach in Maine. I love it. So let me ask you, what is something that you would like to share about your experience and where you work?
So I work at a school called Dora Small School. It's named after a woman, Dora, whose last name is Small, and it is literally somewhat of a small school too. And right now I would describe, in general, our district is going through a lot of funding challenges. So there is a different vibe this year because of that. But I'm going to step back from that. And because that is something that happens, ebbs and flows when it comes to library work, when it comes to public education. So we are a K-4 public school. We have amazing teachers. I am considered a special this year. This is the first year of that. And teachers drop off their students in my library. We use the AASL and the ISTE standards, so the American Association of School Librarians and the International Society of Technology Education standards to build what we want to be teaching and learning in our library classes K-4. So part of my class when students arrive is lessons or experiences or STEAM activities that meet those standards or expose students to those standards. And then part of it is their brilliant time to be intellectually free, exploring the library content and choosing their books to get excited about. And the last, most recent thing that I love that our school does, actually, it's our PTA that runs it, but we use Readathon, which is like a fundraising website, and our school sets minutes of reading goal school-wide, and then we spend 2 weeks with the minutes as the focus, and any type of reading counts. So audiobooks, of course, teacher read alouds, partner reading, all of it, read with a stuffy, it all counts. And students track their individual reading, and the PTA does raffles and kids get prizes, and we met and exceeded our reading goals. So we had brave teachers that got up in front of the whole school and let kids smush pies in their face and gift wrapped a teacher. It was 2 weeks of reading joy and reading excitement and celebrating readers. So I did want to offer that as that's just a cool thing to try, whether you're doing it as a fundraiser or just doing it as a reading matters in our community kind of experience.
Well, and how many times have we been told, hey, we need to build excitement for reading. We need to build excitement for reading. I had just a couple weeks ago for a fundraiser, I was actually pied in the face. And I'm going to tell you right now, friends, my pro tip is get those dollar store plastic tablecloths, dollar store plastic tablecloths. Make sure they're using whipped cream and not shaving cream. Because I was at one point aspirating on whipped cream, and I was glad it wasn't soapy. And no, absolutely. But it sounds like you've got a great setup there. And, I'm so excited that you shared with us, because it really is important, because when you realize this podcast exists because people share their experiences, what is it like every day? What are the winning things that happen in your space? I know we're heading into the end of the school year right now, and we're going to start to be looking at how to get those books back. Would you happen to have a fantastic solution for how we can get our books back as we head into the last quarter of the school year?
I mean, I take a tip from Heather, the contoured librarian. I don't know if you follow her on any social media, but I don't do this all year, but I do keep a running count of this is how many books are out. This is how, I think kids like to work toward see a number go up or see a number go down. It feels tangible. So it's something to give them that tangible feeling. I don't tend to do prizes or anything for that. I just, like to remind them that this is a shared resource. We all need to take turns with books. So that's the main thing I do.
Excellent. Well, listen, I don't want to keep you. You've got an exciting conference that's going on right now. How lucky for Maine to have you and all these amazing school librarians getting together to really just give yourselves that sort of enthusiasm to finish the school year, because I know that we need to be enthusiastic. So many of our teachers are starting to get a little fried out. They're just sort of, yes, they are very weary. We're getting into the finish line, and it doesn't help that the students are counting down the days. But I'm so excited you stopped and decided to share your expertise with us. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the school year.
Same to you, Amy. Thanks for everything you do. Woohoo! See ya.
Hi, my name is Amanda Kozaka. I'm a school librarian at the Cape Elizabeth Middle School in Cape Elizabeth, Maine. We serve students in 5th through 8th grade.
And my name is Megan Brady, and I am the library ed tech at the Cape Elizabeth Middle School. So we're a team.
It's the dynamic duo. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Dazzling duo, we're saying today.
Yes. Listen, your conference sounds so much fun. And I thank you for letting me steal some time away to make sure that we are absolutely going to be able to tap your expertise for a few minutes. Thank you so much. So you work together every day. That sounds like the best of all possible worlds. You have to recognize how ideal this arrangement is.
We definitely do. We're very, very grateful for it. And even though Megan kind of wears a lot of different hats at the school, she often is called upon to help manage the office or step in to cover when a teacher has a meeting. She is super talented and works with the kids in lots of different ways. We're so grateful that we're together at all that we hardly ever grumble about her getting pulled. Hardly ever.
Because
It's kind of rare.
our favorite spot is in the library together.
Yes, it is. That is my happy place as well. But let's talk a little bit more about that. And so it sounds like, so Megan, you have a shared workspace, and talk about what that allows you to do when it comes to really capitalizing on the fact that you've got both of you physically in the same place. Because I know for a lot of us, our ed tech person is, maneuvering around multiple buildings or is not physically in the same space. So let's talk a little bit more about what does that translate into when it comes to library offerings for your school?
Oh, so many things. That's a lot of our presentation today talks about how having this partnership allows Amanda more time to do some of the important stuffs that she does, but then together we can brainstorm all different kinds of programming. And we were going to talk about the program that we were discussing today, our Starbucks tea.
Because to build on what Megan was saying, like, we can obviously do more when there's two of us, but what it does for both of ours, like, confidence and our ability to brainstorm and take chances because we have a partner that we can, throw ideas around with, or someone who can say, yeah, we should do that when you might otherwise be hesitant. So we want to tell you about our favorite program because we think it's kind of unusual for a library program, but it's super successful. And again, as Megan said, it's only possible because we're together. Our favorite program in our LLC is our Starbucks tea. It started about 3 years ago as part of our Sci-Fi Month programming. The year was 2024. We were learning to say yes more. Coming out of kind of a dark time, we were learning to, the power of saying yes to more things and challenging ourselves professionally and personally. We were thinking and talking a lot about SEL in our schools, and we were trying to build relationships with students, but first recognizing we needed to get access to more students. So quite simply, one day, some 8th graders who otherwise would not have chosen to spend time in the library. The kids that come in and say, we have to read a book. Can I have the smallest one possible? Some of those kids, but otherwise were good kids, like at heart, good kids, just didn't want to do it.
They were very polite.
They came in one day and I think, maybe they had gotten in trouble. Maybe they got their phones taken away or something. And they said, can we hang out here in the library? Yes.
Yeah.
Can we make some tea? Can we have a cup of tea? And so we brewed cups of tea.
We had some tea, so
and
we had some available.
Yeah, so for a couple days and started to turn into a pattern, we were making tea for these two kids. Fast forward, it turned into our Starbucks tea program. We offered it for the month just to see what it would be like. And it was immediately super popular because we could say these kids, these 8th grade boys came up with this because they think it's cool to drink tea in here. And so the idea spread as a treat, as something you can do in the library. So you can imagine the teachers at first were like, what are you doing? Why are you taking our kids away and giving them sugary drinks? But we made it a break time. The kids get a little tea pass, a library tea pass that we built with the teachers, and it says how much time they can spend, whether they should be doing schoolwork or reading or having a break. And then they get a chance to have a cup of tea in the library. And as we teach them slowly but surely, it takes time. It takes time to brew it. It takes time to drink a hot cup of tea. Yeah. So at the first level, it was a thing that really calmed our kids down and then made them feel welcome and made them want to go to the library, even if they weren't ever going to read a book. They just wanted to be in there because it had this. There was this whole sense of calming and patience and slowing down. It's been our most favorite program because it's such an example of how we prioritize relationships with kids.
With the students.
Yeah.
So we do, what this shows is we're providing the kids with an alternate learning space. It's safe, it's welcoming, it's inclusive environment. And we really build great relationships with the students this way. And so for those kids that didn't read but loved tea, at least when they had to read, we were able to connect with them very well because we really had gotten to know them so well. So it's just so nice to warmly welcome all types. I mean, we have kids that just want to come and read. And no, we don't want to leave yet. We want another cup of tea. Can we please read for more? I mean, that's obviously a dream come true. But it really, if they have a well-deserved break, we provide them with other things to do. There's jigsaw puzzles and card games. Like they take a break from their schoolwork, take a break from their iPad or their computer, and just focus on some simple either solo tasks or collaboration, just having a nice, quiet, enjoyable time that we get to provide for them every day.
Yeah.
Can I ask a couple questions? Just because I know that somebody's listening to this going, oh, this sounds amazing. So forgive me. First of all, somebody's going to ask, do you offer a variety of different teas? Are you let me ask you, and when it comes to things like adding things like honey or, stirs,
Do we have all day?
talk me through this because I only ask because I do have a kettle. I have a tea station, but it's in my workroom for my teachers. Yes. So how does that translate when you're supporting your students who are not coming into the teacher workroom? So I create that kind of experience in there. And for me, like I go to our thrift shop and I have a bunch of donated mugs. So what does that look like when you're supporting students and not your staff?
Yeah, that's so important. Kids love it when you let them into their staff-only space. That does build a relationship, but it also can build a real problem.
Yeah.
And the sugar's gone. Like 2 kids in, there's no more sugar left. And honey, it's so good for them.
Fast.
Honey's so good for them. But, have honey at home. Have the honey at home. We're going to use the white sugar for this. And yes, we're going to just say right up front when the parents say, my kid loves this tea, but they don't like tea at home. Like, why does your tea taste so good? Megan, why does our tea taste so good?
It has sugar.
It's got sugar in it.
A fair amount of sugar. But
sweet.
we make the tea now. So we don't let the kids make their own tea.
Yeah.
We come up with a recipe.
Yeah, we do a blend of different bag teas.
And then we have, the air pop type things and then we provide the mugs.
Yep. That we've gotten either at thrift stores or there's a teacher
Swap
surplus
shop.
place.
Yeah.
We went from, a tea bag per cup to making just huge amounts of hot water in the morning. We often use a big urn if we need to, or just a kettle works too. And we joke it's an asparagus pot that my mother-in-law gave me. I don't think she'll hear this. We do not use it for asparagus. Sorry, Cheryl.
It's a perfect teapot.
We make 10 or 11 cups of tea in this pot, and then we fill up the carafes, and then we just put it out. We have a little cart. It's got sparkles all over it, and we roll it out with some clean mugs, and the kids, if they spill, they come and get paper towels, and they clean up their mess. And when they're done with their mug, they put it in the dirty mug bin.
Yeah.
And we roll it out at recess because that would be way too much work to have it out at recess.
Yeah, we do have limitations. And you have to have a pass. It has to be
and you have to have
permission.
A pass.
So it's a good system.
Yeah. And again, one that they earn and the kids love it. I think one of my favorite quotes was a little 6th grader put her notebook down and put her book down, and she went up to the tea and she poured herself some tea, and she goes back and sits down and she says, I feel like I'm in a business meeting. Important business lady now having tea. And it's moments like that we realize like this may not be an ordinary part of their life and it feels like a privilege. We might see it as like, oh my gosh, that sounds like a nuisance. It is such a privilege for these kids to get something that feels adult, that feels special, that feels new. And, we trust them in this carpeted space with all the books to have a cup of tea, relax and slow down. And it's been really wonderful, the casual conversations we have with kids. We get to know them. It's grown into, you asked about recipes and things like that. Kids come up with the blends now sometimes for us. If kids, first block of the day, whoever's in there with us, they help us come up with the blend. They decorate a signboard for us. They decide on a name, whether it's lemon berry dazzle, or what was
Rainbow
yesterday's?
Delight.
Yesterday was Fun Friday. Fun Friday Festival or something.
They get to write their name and they get, all the accolades for the day.
So all the things that kids like that we hear about, making like celebrating students, like have a student should walk into your classroom or your library and see their name on the wall or see their art on display or see themselves reflected in some way. And they literally see their art on the whiteboard, or they see the stack of tea passes that we turn into collages and we stick all over the place. Their names are literally all over the walls and all over the shelves. And it's been amazing. And I hate doing dishes, but I will happily wash mugs all day long for the joy that we get from seeing these kids like love being in our library.
It's
love
such a
being
joy.
in our library.
It is such a joy.
And we have a blast. And then at the end of the day, like, how could we possibly complain about our jobs? Like,
let's come back and do it all again tomorrow, right?
What could we say that's bad about a day where kids come in and, they drank so much tea today? We had 20 kids. Did you see that? Not a problem. Not a problem.
But I'm going to stop you. What you've also done is you have created something that is easy to support. I'm sure there are some individuals who would seek out, say, hey, listen, if families would like to donate boxes, you know what? That would be lovely. Yes, please. Thank you. You have created a situation where you are rewarding and creating this adult experience, but on some level, it is being identified as something that is it is a reward. It's a very low cost to support, and you're centering the students in this way that celebrates them and gives them something that is so easy to manage, but also it's not one of these ridiculous, $7 or $8 drinks that they're getting from, Dunkin' Donuts. You're not creating a monster here, is what I'm trying to say. As a high school teacher, my students are walking by on the daily with drinks that I find prohibitively expensive. I'm not going to encourage this behavior. I've got my Aldi coffee that's going on in the back. You're not creating an expensive habit. You're not creating an expectation that isn't sustainable. The kids are coming home with more mature expectations of enjoying a moment and celebrating that.
We've heard that from parents. Just recently on our conference afternoon, a parent who's not one of my students, but not one of my home-based advisory students, but a student that comes in the library a lot and actually has earned the title of one of our tea ambassadors, one of our R&D tea specialists. But the mom said, this is his routine at home now. He associates drinking tea with reading, and he reads more now. And he wasn't a reluctant reader, but middle school is when you lose them because they're so busy. They're so busy and other things are way more exciting. But he has a routine now where he makes a cup of tea and he reads. And now mom does that with him, and she has her teenage son still. I'm going to cry. She still has time with her teenage son because they sit and they read and they drink tea together. Because, again, it's simple. It's really simple. And the kids walking around with all those other drinks, it does indicate at some level they're looking for some comfort, or they're looking for like a little pick-me-up, or there's something about it. And, middle school kids, they're always looking for snacks. They're always looking for something because they're hungry and they want comfort, and they want just, they want a little something, special. Reassurance, a little something special.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to tell you, every single person I have spoken to today has given us so many places to go, so many directions to take our own programming. I am so grateful to the inspiring school librarians of Maine, because truly, I'm like, I can't wait to start doing some of these things, next week. And a program like this, you don't have to wait till September to start. You could do this and just do a soft launch and see how it goes. And Honest to goodness, thank you so much. I'm grateful. Thank you. Have a great rest of your conference.
Well, thank you
Thank
for letting
you
us
so
talk
much.
about this. This makes us so
It was an
happy.
honor.
Thank you, Amy.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you.
Love that. Being part of this day, this is awesome.
My name is Heidi Cook, and I am a high school librarian. I am in my 8th year at my current school at Freeport High School, and I think I tried to figure I'm something like my 25th year of school librarianship.
Wow. This is my year 19, so I feel pretty excited about that. But wow, 25 years. Has it all been in high school?
A couple of years in middle school, and other than that, it's been all high school.
All right. What is it you'd like to share with listeners today?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about my version of, I guess it's library advocacy. It's not as much about like promoting and marketing and influencing, which is all really, really important to our profession, but it's more about making raving fans out of all users.
All right. I am dying to know because truly we are always, and I think this is something I remember from library school, you must always treat what we do as on the chopping block. The budget, the budget is always out there. We are always in a situation where we need to protect and promote the reason we're even in our spaces, because I think there are a lot of people who do not see us as vitally important to the school community. And so advocacy is always going to be on our radar.
Yeah. And, circulation is certainly down now, and I sometimes I take that personally. Kids aren't reading, and do I still have a purpose? And I'm like, that's just a piece of what I do, and really it's getting the right resources to people in the right format at the right time. But really, sort of my main points, what I have come to over the years. Number one is maintaining the vibe and this friendly, academic, welcoming, sort of chill, helpful. I work with teens, so helpful is often a very passive thing. I make sure that there are tons of supplies around, that there's a variety of places to sit. And students will say like, oh, can I borrow this pencil? And the answer is, of course. And I don't let the chargers go out of the library anymore because it was the wear and tear on me of chasing those down. But we have tons of charging stations throughout, and then passive programming, of course, puzzles and things like that. But I find having the supplies and treating every interaction that I get to have with kids as a moment. Like, I know as a teenager, I think that I often went a long time without having a meaningful conversation with an adult. And I think about those things of like, yeah, but, the printer is, it's the weak link in the technology. And so the printer always seems to have issues, but I use that as an opportunity. And kids haven't grown up using copy machines. And so being able to show them how to do duplex printing and showing them how to scan. It's not that I'm like, the holder of the expertise. It's an opportunity to empower them in some little way. And I get to be another adult in their life who has their best interests, at heart.
It would be very easy for somebody in that situation to defensively say, I did not go to library school to be the copier, in my building. This is not why I went to library school. And you can think that in your heart. But I think if we also remember that what our students will internalize is how we make them feel. How do they internalize this experience? If we take these opportunities to work with them as an opportunity to make those impressions on these young people, they are going to internalize, this is a person across from me who's helping me. This is somebody who sees my needs as important. And we need to see this as an opportunity and not resent it for, this is not why I went to library school.
Right. And then when I do, I teach them about the databases or, do the library lesson. They're there for it in a different way because we have a trust. And I think I try to do the same thing with teachers. I mean, I could bemoan it's so hard to get people to collaborate. But I think I just meet people where they are. Do they want a 5-minute mini lesson? Do they just need this short story in this particular format? Whatever it is. So I finding all sorts of ways to make raving fans. And another thing I do is each of the 4 libraries where I have worked, the first thing I have done is eliminate overdue fines because I have limited contact with students and I don't want that to be about, you owe us 75 cents.
I will agree. When I send out overdue notices, I make it, it's not in all caps, but it might as well be. But the first thing I do when there's an overdue notice is it simply says, please remember there are never, ever any overdue fines. We simply would like the books back so other readers can enjoy them. And I've tried that. That's singularly the only message in that email is, please know this book is checked out. We'd love to have it back when you're done with it. Please know there are never any overdue fines ever.
Great. Thank you. This feels so good to be able to talk about this.
Wow. Yes. Well, but I think that, I think success and a good day is going to look different for everyone. And I think that if we use the same metrics that we do like in an elementary school where we're seeing kids every week because they're on our schedule versus at a high school level where we are seeing them on an as needed basis, not when we need to see them, but when they need us. And sometimes we see people when they are struggling or they don't know how to articulate what they need, or it's something as basic as I need a pencil, I'm not prepared for school, I'm feeling the pressure from the classroom. We're that help, even if they don't know they need us.
Right. Yes.
That's
yes,
fantastic.
Very much.
That's fantastic. I love it. I'm so jealous that you all are having this wonderful conference today. What a wonderful way to energize professionals as we head into what can arguably be some of the more taxing time of the year because everybody is sort of done. They are checked out. Our students are checked out. Our teachers are fried. And we need to be that source of energy and enthusiasm. And we need to be that source of support for people as they are wrapping up the final weeks of the school year.
Right. And just sort of like that anchor, that steady presence, because the end of the school year is like a freight train and it's mowing everyone down. And I'm just try to maintain the vibe.
Absolutely. And here you are, you're spending your Saturday together with a bunch of professionals. You're going to go back to school on Monday, ready to hit the ground running. I'm so grateful for you to share your expertise with us and your philosophy, because it truly is one that's going to help the rest of us. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amy. This was really fun. Take care.
So my name is Emily Ender, and I am the middle school librarian in Oxford Hills, the district of Oxford Hills in South Paris, Maine. And my library, I actually have 2 campuses, but I'm one librarian. We are one school in 2 buildings. And so my main campus serves 2/3 of our student body, and our South Campus serves 1/3 of our student body. But North Campus has about 25 times the library space as South Campus. So I've had to get really creative with my library space at South to make sure I'm giving them equitable services and access to materials. We're a very geographically large district. Yeah. We like to say that our bus drivers go to the moon and back every year. So we're geographically large, very remote and rural, and we've got some great kids.
For listeners to better understand, you are a middle school librarian supporting 2 physically separate campuses. What is the drive between, and are you spending like half of your day between those, or are you like entire days so you're not in transit?
Yeah, it's about 10 minutes, so it's not too far. So I do have a full-time library ed tech, and she'll do a rotation day at South Campus, and I do a rotation day at South Campus. So they're getting in-person library services 2 school days out of 5. And what we did is we just had to innovate some solutions so that the students could do self-service for when we're not there. And that's one of my big accomplishments that I'm proud of this year.
Ooh, I want to hear about this because we are such control freaks. I think that it's very hard for us to relinquish that kind of control. And you are, it sounds like, trusting the students to run a checkout when nobody's around.
Yes. So there are two things I should mention. The first one is I am a first-year librarian in this district. So I kind of came in and I got to give credit to my administrators because I was given wide latitude, and that was great. The other thing I'll say is that the library space is in the front hallway, so the secretary can keep an eye on it at all times. And so there's eyeballs on it no matter what. But I also really strongly believe that if we have the belief that students can rise to the occasion, they will. And so we set the bar high and we let them perform up to it. And what we did with the self-checkout system, we had an option to use a 21st century technology, but there were a lot of barriers to that. Students are not, contrary to what we think, they're not digital natives. They have to be trained in how to use the device. The device has to be charged, number one barrier, and they have to have it with them when they come to the library. So what we did is I thought back through all of library history, and I found a solution in an outdated 20th century method, applied the 21st century tools of a laminator and a wet erase marker, and now they have a sign-out card in every single book, and they just drop it in an envelope, and it has run very smoothly. So far, the biggest snag we've hit is when students want to take too many library books out at one time, and that is a great problem to have.
So walk us through this because I'm fascinated. So you have taken checkout cards and they are in a pocket in the books?
They're just a laminated bookmark. They're just a laminated bookmark. They're loose.
Okay, and then they would be sitting just somewhere at near a door, and the students just write the name of the book, the barcode on it, or how do they do that? So many questions.
Yeah, it's pre-printed with the title of the book and the barcode, so all they have to do is write their name. It is as simple as writing their name, and then they drop it in a designated envelope that is confidential, and every rotation day we check the envelope, we check it out in the system. This does mean they get a couple extra days with the book that their compatriots at the Maine campus don't get. That's okay.
All right, so now we're going to drill down. So you have printed out, are these like 3x5 cards, 4x6 cards? How is that card attached to the book when the students are getting ready to check out?
Yeah, it's loose inside the book, and they pull it out. It's basically a laminated bookmark, and it's loose inside the book, and the students are really, really good. We gave them a lot of trust with this project, and so when they can't find the laminated card, if it got lost, we've only had like 2 losses of the card, so people are using it the way it's designed to work. We've had a couple books, just a few, where the card got lost, and we have a little stack of note paper for our suggestion box. It's right next to the self-checkout area on our table. If they can't find the card, they write their name and the title on the blank paper and they drop it right in. It's on the honor system and they are doing it. They're rocking it.
I think it would be so easy to complicate this with a digital solution. We automatically go to a situation where we're like, no, we should scan it, and then we should have, but you're going to have to log in, and do we have what kind of, again, there's something rather elegant about how incredibly bare bones you have taken this system, which can be. I've heard of plenty of people who do self-checkout, but there's always been an adult in the space. There is a certain maturity level expected of your young people to do this when you're not there.
Yes, absolutely. And once again, we found that when we believed in them, then that helped them believe in themselves, that they could do it. And I've recognized students when, so the first time I saw this one student use the piece of paper because she couldn't find the gold card, I gave her we have a school-wide incentive program, and so it's like a little ticket and they are entered in a drawing. She's like, this is the first one I've ever gotten. And she was so touched that somebody noticed that, she didn't have what she needed to do the system right. So she improvised and somebody recognized her for that. And she was so grateful. Now she's one of my top self-checkout users. So it's great. It's absolutely great. And I also want to say on the technology piece, I just gave a professional development about this and about creative problem solving when you have a lot of limitations on your program. And the visual I used was a lighthouse. So when we think first of that technology piece, it's like we have a directed flashlight beam. We're looking only at the future. But the thing about a lighthouse, and this is very Maine, right, famous for our lighthouses, is that it's a 360 perspective. It is global. It's looking everywhere. And sometimes the technology we need has already been there, and all it takes is a little tweak.
I do hope this isn't the last time you and I speak. I hope at some point you, think about possibly sharing, and we're going to meet together and record an episode, because I love how fresh these ideas are and how applicable they are for library professionals who are tuning in each and every week. I'm jealous you're at this amazing conference. I want you to go and enjoy being that collegiality that you get in a conference. And I wish you the very best as you finish the rest of your school year.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Friends, I want to welcome the Maine librarian that I met years ago in 2022, Heather Perkinson. Welcome back to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. We were so glad to have you be here today. It's such a great opportunity for everyone to hear from Maine libraries. We are mostly rural libraries. We do have a few cities, but compared to other people's cities, I think we really qualify for rural overall. And so when we spoke back in 2022, I talked about rural library problems, even though my library is not considered rural by many other people's standards. But as I'm on the board of the Maine Association of School Libraries, I was speaking for my membership, and it was a lot of fun, and I recommend it.
Well, I'm so grateful because in December of 2022, we had one conversation, and you put Maine on the radar. Like I go to my, looking at the episodes that I've done, and there are some states for whom I have 20 episodes, 30 episodes, and for Maine, I had one episode, and there was an opportunity to join you for this conversation. And I love that we're able to feature as many amazing, talented, and generous school librarians that you have in the state of Maine. I feel like we've really gotten a flavor of what it's like to be a school librarian in Maine. And I got to tell you, if there are people tuning in right now who are like, my dream is to move to Maine, I've got to tell you, I'm ready to move to Maine. It sounds like a wonderful place to work if you're a school librarian.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Heather, you have taken time out of your conference. Thank you so much to you and your conference leadership for making this episode possible. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of the school year. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been great.
Friends, if you found this episode helpful, please share it out with your team, your PLN, and on social media. Be sure to follow on your favorite podcatcher so you'll never miss an episode. And if you really liked listening today, consider leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews help others find us. If you're curious to know how often your state or country has been featured on the podcast, simply click on the link which can be found in our show notes, search title, author, state, and country, and do a Command F search. I hope this is the year you consider being a guest on the show. Please visit the FAQs in every episode and you'll realize just how easy it is. We all have something to share. Make 2026 your time to shine. I'm currently juggling several outlines and tentative recording dates. You can be sure our upcoming episodes will showcase amazing school librarians sharing their strategies and resources. I hope you will tune in.